to Iran. So it's in American national security interests to not have a nuclear Iran. Let's talk about, and again, because I don't want to assume anything, think about, to understand nuclear Iran, what does that mean? Think of a stool, we'll call it the nuclear stool. It has 3 legs. You need all 3 legs to end up with a nuclear weapon. One leg is uranium enrichment. Iran already has that accomplished. They can make enough 90% enriched uranium for multiple bombs in weeks. There's another way through plutonium, but let's put that aside. Can they deliver them? Well, the most conventional way of thinking about it is ballistic missiles. They've shot, since April, maybe 350 ballistic missiles. Not every one of them was intercepted by Israel's advanced systems, whether Arrow 203 or David Sling. You only need one nuclear-tipped missile. Israel, as one of the former Iranian presidents said, is a 1-bomb country. You said that to Tel Aviv, you will kill 80% of the people. So, we're talking about Iran, we're talking about a nuclear Iran. What's the third leg? Third leg is weaponization. What is weaponization? Weaponization is when you basically create the conditions for a nuclear bomb. And what is that? Neutron initiators, computer modeling, turning uranium gas into uranium metals. And then when you put it all together to have a test that's there. I told Congress through meeting with the former National Security Advisor of Israel, probably March or April, that they were weaponizing, according to Israeli intelligence. I went to Congress. Congress says, what are you talking about? We don't know. This is quite an assertion, Dr. Mandel. I said, I got it from one of my most trusted sources. Sure enough, this past summer, I think the first week of August, our Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, whose father was my biochemistry professor at medical school, she admitted under very difficult testimony that we cannot confirm that they, and this was always a guarantee, we know they're not testing, weaponizing, she could not confirm it anymore. And the only reason she spoke about it was she was compelled by congressional law under pressure of a senator named Lindsey Graham she had to by congressional law to speak about that. So we now have Iran on the cusp of a nuclear weapon. They have plenty of places to hide it. So should Israel, and it sounds so simple and binary, because they've been attacked now twice, unprecedented, with the largest ballistic missile attacks in modern history. Should they be able to attack back? Should they be able to attack significant targets? Should they be able to attack? Because it is truly an existential threat, and they make no bones about it. They want to eradicate the 8 million Jews who live there. They don't care so much about the Arabs, the 21% of Israeli Arabs who live there, or the Palestinians who live in the West Bank. They're more than happy to take them as collateral damage should Israel strike. I have asked this question a long time. Years ago, did Israel have the possibility without the help of the United States? There's, I think, little doubt that if we helped Israel, it would be so much more effective and better. So, for example, just so you can conceptualize something, when you have an enrichment site, let's assuming that's what you were shooting at, and there's a crack that trucks go into through a mountain to bring in supplies. That's a full one in there. And if you sent a bunker buster missile in there, you might be able to disrupt what goes on there. Israel has no bunker busting missiles of the kind America has, the Moab, massive ordnance. Israel has things like 2,000-pound bombs. It doesn't have the means to deliver them. We have chosen, the United States has chosen not to give mothball, B-52s, B-2s, B-1s to Israel so we can deliver the Moabs, because you need a massive plane to be able to deliver them. So we never wanted to give the Israelis the threat. That was been an American policy decision on multiple administrations. How could Israel get there? So if Israel has some bunker-busting missiles, think of what they did to Nasrallah. They pounded, and then they pounded, and they pounded, and they went, who knows, 20 stories deep, and they finally killed Nasrallah, and they've now killed his successor. They would have to hit that little crevice once perfectly, twice perfectly, 3 times perfectly. That's assuming they went to the enrichment. If they knew what weaponizations were occurring, that's another thing. People are also fearful. I work with Iranian protesters in this country, or activists, I should say, and work with the protesters, and they're worried about the nuclear fallout of places that are enriching uranium. So it's not an easy question. So will the United States help Israel? I feel confident in saying publicly, no. The best I think you could hope, if this is what you think is what's needed, is America behind the scenes with intelligence could help. But it's also an interesting thing. Every time Israel is told not to do something, and since October 7th, and then goes and does it, then we sort of say, yeah, that was a good idea. If you're talking nuclear, think about the Syrian reactor. President Bush told Israel, I don't want to get involved. Israel, under Prime Minister Olmert at that time, struck the North Korean-built Syrian reactor. It exists no more. But then it was all good. So Israel lives with lots of constraints. From my point of view, here's our problem with Iran. We have no strategy. Our strategy is de-escalation. De-escalation means every time Israel tries to defend itself and goes on the offensive, we say Israel is escalating. That is a way for your adversary to win. We need a strategy, and I'm going to tell you what I've been writing about for years, and I'll tell you what I told the State Department in August. I said, we, America, need to be pro-Iranian. What does that mean? Pro-Iranian people. It means the Iranian people overwhelmingly want to throw off the shackles of this tyrannical regime. And where are we, America? We should be ashamed, because you look about when they have come literally in the millions into the streets. 2009, the Green Revolution. Unfortunately, the president at that time, for 2 weeks, didn't make a statement in support of the Iranian people, which basically gave a free pass to the tyrants and what they did. We should be pro-Iranian. They hang LGBTQs from cranes routinely. They use just like on October 7th, sexual violence. They do it in their Evian prison. They kill, imprison, maim anybody who's an adversary. This is a horrific regime. The people, not so much. What American policy should be, and we deal with a third-rate power and let them dictate, our policy should be for regime change. Now, when you hear that, you say to yourself, oh man, this guy's a warmonger. You know, we've had these forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we don't want another quagmire. Did I say anything about American boots on the ground? A Kennedy School of Government researcher, professor, she looked up coups, that means people coming up and overthrowing a government. The vast majority, or good strong majority, found that when 3% of the people are actively involved in overthrowing a regime, that's when things occur without kinetics, without violence. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen in Iran, but we should be, what are we afraid of? We're called the big Satan. They say they want death to America. Israel's just a little Satan. And by the way, behind closed doors, all of the Sunni Arab world, which represents 85% of the Muslim world, would love Iran to have a regime change, would love Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis and the popular mobilization units that are Iranian-controlled Iraqi militias to be put in their place. I was on Iraqi television twice in the last 2 weeks, and I said this, I said, you have no territorial dispute with Israel. You're sending missiles into Israel under the orders of Iran. You're going to pay the price. The Iranians are more than happy to fight to the last drop of Arab blood. Why are you letting yourselves be taken advantage of? So, we need a strategy. I'm afraid we don't. The Israelis also didn't really have a strategy. I think their strategy was waiting for America to get a strategy. But America and Israel really have the same interests, and this is an opportunity. So just before I get to the next question, what other places could Israel hit? President Biden initially said the oil facilities would be a target, and then quickly pivoted and said they cannot be a target. So that would be places like Hard Island, where most of the fossil fuels come through, or the container ports like Bandar Abbas. There's a quid pro quo out there. The administration is saying to the Israelis, we're going to give you lots of munitions and goodies if you only have a proportional response. I think, and I'm an American, but I think this is against American national security interests, and I feel confidence against Israeli national security interests not to take that. The Israelis, when I go to Israel and I talk right to left, I hear more times from the center and the center left that let's stop wasting our time in Gaza, let's hit Iran. They get it. This is not a right versus left issue in Israel. Iran, as Naftali Bennett, former prime minister, said, is the head of the octopus. And so the Israelis are willing to do it despite the high risk. And the last thing I'm going to say, we were told by our president for Israel to have a proportionate response. And the reason I'm mentioning the word proportionality is because it is so misunderstood. You heard it all the time in Gaza that Israel was indiscriminately targeting and doing a disproportionate response. According to international law, not a politicized version of international law, you can shoot at targets where there are civilians, especially when they are being used as human shields, as both Hezbollah and Iran do, and Hamas do. And that is within international law. You can, if it gives you enough of a military advantage to do that, you could feel confident. And our John Spencer, who's head of our West Point Urban Affairs Institute, has said that Israel's war, this urban war in over 700 miles of tunnels, has been the most, if you can use this word, humane. In most wars, there are 12 civilians killed, including our wars with Iraq and Afghanistan, for every combatant terrorist that was killed. Israel's at 1.5 to 1, which is showing that and I have been in my fire watching Israel fire back to its disadvantage, not trying to hit civilians. I can be happy another time to tell you all kinds of stories. So when you hear that word proportionality, it means something different internationally, in international law, but it has been bastardized about the people who are hurting our most important ally in the Middle East.
Excellent response, thank you.